Today on Sports Card Investor, where I was right and where I was wrong. We're looking back at my 2022 predictions for the sports card market to see the good, the bad, and the ugly.
My name is Jeff Wilson. By day, I invest in tech companies, and at night, I invest in sports cards. Join me and my team as we help you profit from the hobby we all love.
Hello, sports card investors! And can you believe that we are almost at the end of the year 2022? This year absolutely flew by, and as we're sitting here in December, I'm reflecting back on the year that was in the sports card hobby. And I started to wonder, how did my predictions for this year turn out? Because back in January, on January 2nd, on this YouTube channel, I put out a video with my 10 bold predictions for sports cards in 2022. Wouldn't it be fun to take a look back at what I predicted and see what I got right and see some of the pretty horrible whiffs that I might have had as well? Let's take a look. Here was my first prediction from the beginning of the year.
I think overall 2022 will be a much more stable year for the sports card market. I don't think you're going to see the crazy spike in prices occur at any point this year. I also don't think you're going to see any huge dramatic drop in prices either. You'll see some cards go up, you'll see some cards go down, but overall, it's going to be a more stable year for the sports card market.
Well, I got that one partially right. The sports card market definitely has been more stable overall this year than it was last year and the year before. But it's been pretty stable, nudging down in a downward direction if you're looking at prices. So it has been a stable decline, but it has been a decline nonetheless for sports card prices. I'm going to show you what I mean here in Market Movers. This is our market pulse looking at the overall sports card market for the year 2022. We're going back to January 1st at the beginning of the graph. And you can see, for the most part, a relatively steady pattern. We had a little bit of an accelerated drop during the month of June due to, I think, some stock market volatility. And then we've had a little bit of an accelerated drop here in late October and early November as well. Hopefully, things are starting to stabilize now. But once again, we've had volatility in stock markets. We've had volatility in cryptocurrency, which I think contributed to some of this over as well. Overall, the SCI 500 index of the 500 most prominent sports cards is down a little over 26% on the year. It has been more stable, but it's been more stable in a bad direction. These are all the cards that make up the SCI 500 index. And to show you what I mean, let's zoom in on a couple of these, right? Let's look at, for example, Michael Jordan's 1986 Fleer rookie card. We're going to look at this in PSA 8. And let me zoom out to show all of the data. So we're going back to the beginning of 2020. And so this is 2020 and 2021, right? This is December 2020 up to that crazy spike in the sports card market to the beginning of February 2021, followed by a pretty sharp dip. So if you look over here to 2022, you can see what I'm talking about. It has definitely been more stable overall than the prior couple of years had been, but it is still slowly nudging downwards. I wish it was slowly nudging upwards instead of slowly nudging downwards. And really, if you look at any of these popular cards, like for example, Kobe Bryant's Topps Chrome base card, most of the cards are doing a pretty similar pattern. Not all. Some of the vintage cards have avoided some of this pattern and have actually gone up a bit this year, but most cards have done this type of pattern. Definitely more stable this year than years past, but stable in not the best direction. All right, let's take a look at my second prediction.
Prediction number 2. Because we'll have more market stability overall, it will become possible once again to make money in the short term by picking cards of players who perform well in their sport.
So this prediction was correct. Speculation on cards did become more possible this year. It was more possible this year to buy cards at the beginning of a season, and if you pick the players correctly, their cards could go up significantly during the season. That wasn't as possible last year because there were periods of time last year when the sports card market was in sharp decline, and even if you pick the right players, their cards still could be going down in price. This year, since things have stabilized somewhat, at least compared to last year, it's more possible to pick some winners if you're speculating on the right guys. I'll show you what I mean. This is the price movements in Market Movers X. And so what I've done here is I've sorted by football cards. So we're looking at football cards where there's been a number of sales of these cards, graded cards, over the course of the last 90 days. So we're looking back to essentially the start of this year's NFL season. And you can see you got guys like Jalen Hurts, who's, he's got a lot of cards on here that are up, 200%, 300%, 100% or more. Jordan Love, his cards have started to get hot recently. Josh Jacobs, he's obviously been outstanding. Christian McCaffrey, he, of course, had that big trade. Patrick Mahomes has been pretty good for the most part. Tua's on here. Nick Chubb's had a nice season. Travis Kelce's had a real nice season. So not a surprise to see some of those names on this hot list. What is nice to see is that all of those cards I just showed you have at least doubled since the start of the football season. So it is possible now to speculate once again.
Prediction number 3. This will be a good year for the value of sports cards overall, but not all types of cards. And unfortunately, I think you're going to see the value of high population cards, base cards, continue to decline.
So while I was a little bit too optimistic about the overall sports card market this year, I was absolutely right that base cards did in fact continue to decline, and they did decline harder than the high-end cards in the market. In fact, the early part of this year, a lot of high-end cards were holding up really, really well in terms of price, while a lot of the really high population ultra-modern cards were the ones that were starting to tumble. Now, recently, we've seen weakness in the high-end market as well, with high-end cards falling as well. But those base cards, those high population, heavily printed cards are the ones that have really been tumbling all year long. And the reason is simply oversupply. There's so many of those cards. Last year, many of those cards were caught up in the grading companies with all the big grading delays. But the grading companies now are pretty well caught up on their backlogs. And what that means is that all of those cards that were sitting, waiting to get graded for most of last year, they've now been returned to the consumer, and then a lot of consumers have put these out for sale. So there's a lot of supply of those high population cards that have hit the market this year, that continues to hit the market. And there's just not enough demand for those high population cards to keep prices high. So we've seen the prices of high population cards fall quicker than everything else. And that's a pattern that might make my 2023 predictions as well. I don't see that one changing anytime super soon.
Number 4, I predict that the segment of the sports card market that will see its prices increase the most this year is soccer cards. And hockey cards, they may follow closely behind.
So I got this one half right. Soccer cards have not outperformed the sports card market this year. I've been disappointed by that. I had a lot of hope for soccer cards this year with the World Cup, of course, now taking place. I was looking forward to that all year long, but the soccer market seemed to have a lot of speculators in it. A lot of people jumped out of the market. We didn't have the international expansion that I was hoping we might have this year with soccer cards, and the World Cup has not given soccer cards the overall level of boost that I was hoping. Some cards have heated up in the World Cup and have gone up in price, but the overall market hasn't had quite the fervor. I think part of the reason for that is that the World Cup is happening at a weird time. Normally it happens over the summer, but because of where it is, it's happening during smack in the middle of football season, in basketball season. There's been a lot of, obviously a lot of great sports going on right now. You got hockey going on, and the World Cup is just another sport. It's also broadcast at odd times of the day. It's not, a lot of the games aren't on mainstream TV channels. So, and of course now the US team's been knocked out. So unfortunately, there's a lot of reasons why I don't think the World Cup had as much impact as I was hoping it would this year, and the soccer card market has not been great this year as a result. Hockey cards have held up better than most this year. Hockey cards have outpaced some of the other major sports. They've had a decent year overall, especially compared to some of the other sports, so I was partially correct about that. But what I really should have said, the proper answer would have been that the vintage card market would be the best card market in 2022. Instead of picking one of the sports, I should have just simply said, invest in vintage cards across all sports, because one pattern that was definitely clear this year was that vintage outperformed modern and ultra modern.
Number 5, the segment of the hobby that I predict will get beat up the most in terms of prices this year is trading card games. Pokemon, Magic, Yu-Gi-Oh! I think these trading card games might be in for some real price decline this year amongst graded cards of higher population elements of those games in particular.
So trading card games, Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh!, Magic, they are all down in price this year. I did predict that they would drop a lot. They have dropped a lot, but not necessarily the most. They're not down more than some other types of cards. There's some sports cards that are down more than trading card games. The proper answer to this question actually could have been Marvel cards. Marvel cards are the ones that have been the most volatile this year, and some other non-sports cards as well, but Marvel in particular has been very volatile. You've seen the crazy price swings that happened this year with some of the precious metal gem Marvel cards that were peaking, and now they've just absolutely dropped off the face of the map in some cases in terms of value, at least compared to where they were several months ago with some of those cards. If you look at some of the older Marvel cards, this gets interesting as well. I brought up this graph here in Market Movers. Market Movers, by the way, has I think around 20,000 Marvel cards that we track in Market Movers. So I brought up some cards from that 1990 Marvel Universe set. Stan Lee's base card in PSA 10 and PSA 9, Spider-Man in PSA 9, Hulk in PSA 9. And if you look at what all of these have done over the course of the year, you can see that graph doesn't look very good. Let's zoom into the details. Look at that red, guys. I mean, these cards are down anywhere between 43% and 75% on the year. And that's true with a lot of Marvel cards. So actually, Marvel cards have been the ones that have dropped a lot harder than trading card games or most sports cards out there.
Prediction number 6. I think this is the year that you will start to find cards reliably at retail again.
Well, this one was certainly correct. There are a lot more boxes available in retail stores now. You can walk into a Walmart or Target and you can definitely find boxes on the shelves that you couldn't find a year ago. And the reason why I predicted this would happen in 2022 is first of all, some of the buzz around flipping was fading as we came into this year. It was no longer as easy to go buy a blaster box for $19 and then go sell it on eBay for $50 or $60 right when you walked out of the store. That wasn't really happening as much at the end of 2021, and I really felt like that practice was going to fade as we got into 2022, and it has in fact faded. And the other thing is card manufacturers are printing a lot more cards. There's more retail on the card shelves, on the card store shelves, because they're printing more retail. They're making more boxes this year than ever before. I've heard some stats on this. I've heard from some of the card manufacturers how many additional boxes they printed this year compared to what they printed last year in terms of retail product. The numbers are relatively staggering. It's not great for the long-term value of some of those cards that you can find in retail boxes because they definitely were printed a lot more, and there's evidence of the fact that they are all now on card store shelves. But the good news is, as a collector, this is a good thing. If you're a collector, you can now walk into your Walmart or Target, and just like it used to be prior to the pandemic, you can pick up whatever product you like. So that is a nice thing for collectors, maybe not a nice thing for the secondary value of that wax or those cards in the long term.
Number 7. Now I'm going to go out on a limb here and predict that Fanatics will start manufacturing sports cards this year. And I think that's going to happen because I'm going to predict that Fanatics is going to acquire one of the major card manufacturers. I'm going to guess Topps. And all of that will happen this year.
Hey, that one came true. Fanatics, of course, did in fact acquire Topps. I made that prediction back on January 2nd, and it was only a few days later that Fanatics actually announced the news that they were going to acquire Topps. And I promise you, I did not know. I truly did not know. I did not have an inside source telling me that. I just connected a lot of dots. I listened to people talking. I had listened to interviews with Fanatics executives. I had seen them, doing a whole bunch of hiring. And I'm like, they got something in the works here. I read the tea leaves, I connected the dots, and I predicted that would happen, and that came true. So Fanatics did, in fact, acquire Topps. The question now, of course, on everyone's mind is, will Fanatics acquire Panini? And there was a period of time when a lot of people thought that was going to happen. The news hasn't happened yet. We don't have a deal yet. Will that happen? I don't know. I hope so, but I don't know for sure. We'll see if I add that into my 2023 prediction video soon.
Number 8, Marketplaces are going to duel it out like you've never seen before this year, and it's going to be good for you as the consumer.
Yes to this one, absolutely. The marketplaces have been in a war with each other this year, and it has been good for the consumer because what it has done is it has driven innovation. So we've seen a lot of new innovations from the marketplaces this year. We've seen eBay, for example, come out with their authenticity guarantee program. Now that's a little controversial. Not everybody likes it, but it is an innovation designed at making the sports card market safer. They also came out with their eBay Vault towards the end of the year as well. We also saw Golden come out, team with collectors, and come out with the Golden Collectors Vault this year. Golden, by the way, also supposedly working on a new website that's going to offer some new features and functionality in terms of being able to sell cards anytime. So that will be exciting to see that come out. Speaking of selling cards anytime, PWCC split from eBay last year, and it's really this year that they got in the routine with all the weekly auctions, the flash sales on their website, the fixed price listings on their website, their premier auctions every month. PWCC has been selling a lot of cards and getting a lot of attention in terms of a marketplace this year. You've also had Alt that's continuing to make improvements to their marketplace and their technology, as well as others. So overall, the fact that you have all of these marketplaces competing with each other, what it is doing, it is putting pressure on each and every one of them to innovate. It's forcing all of them to get better. And overall, this is in fact a win for the sports card hobbyist.
Prediction number 9, it's not just the big marketplaces that are going to have a big year, it's startups as well.
This has been a big year for startups. Now, I'm not sure all of those startups are super happy about how this year has gone because prices have fallen off. The economy's gotten a little bit shaky. It's harder to raise capital now. It's harder to go get your next round of capital. And there were a lot of startups that entered the sports card market in 2021 and 2022. I don't know that all of them are going to survive 2023 because their funding may run out, their investors may pull out, they may not be able to hit the benchmarks in terms of growth that they need to be hitting in order to satisfy those who backed their companies. It's hard to do that in a declining market. But there has been some really cool startup innovation that we have seen this year. The result of all these startups coming into the market is, once again, it has increased innovation. It has given us better and better technologies. One that I am particularly excited about is tag grading. Tag grading is doing 100% AI-based grading. And I, by the way, Tag's not a sponsor. I have no affiliation with Tag, but I love the promise of the technology. I love the idea that computer vision can grade a card and can give it a true, accurate assessment. So we get rid of human bias from grading and human imperfection in how they rate things. Computers precisely doing grading, I do believe, is the future. Whether Tag's got the right mix of technology right now, time will tell as they get more and more tested by more people submitting their cards. But the very idea that we've got a company in the marketplace that is 100% AI-based, computer vision-based, that is a good thing for the marketplace. That type of innovation is what we need more of in the sports card hobby. It's great to see a startup like Tag bringing that and putting pressure, frankly, on the other grading companies, the big established grading companies, to step up their game as well.
And prediction number 10. This year, you're going to see a whole new wave of innovative sports card shows that are going to create some really cool experiences and ultimately may challenge the National for being the top show in the sports card hobby.
So I do definitely think we saw some card show innovation this year, which has been really great to see. Nothing has challenged the National, maybe to the extent that I thought it would or hoped that it would, but it has put pressure on the National, and that is causing some changes at the National. I'll talk about it in a second. But some of the shows this year that I thought did really good things, for example, you had Culture Collision in Atlanta at the beginning of this year. They had a basketball court on the card show floor, and they had basketball tournaments going on in the middle of the card show. They also invited a lot of sneaker sellers into the card show environment. So you had different types of collectibles, different types of culture items representing represented on the card show floor. So kudos to Culture Collision for pushing the innovation envelope in a couple of different directions. You had Mint Collective. That was a huge new show edition. That happened earlier this year in Las Vegas. And by the way, it's happening again next year. If you have any interest in the business side of the sports card hobby, you should get out to Mint Collective. Mint Collective is more of a business conference. There's a card show element to it, but the card show is not the star. What is the star is that Mint Collective brings together many of the big owners of the different companies in the hobby and folks who work for them. It brings out startup talent, a lot of these people who are doing startups in the hobby. It brings out a lot of the content creators, and they actually have like multiple days of workshops and panels and really cool networking opportunities and meet and greet opportunities. There were a lot of partnerships, business partnerships formed and discussions about the future at Mint Collective. So I really think that was a good thing for the sports card hobby. I'm excited about getting to go back to that one this next year in 2023. You had the Burbank Card Show. For the very first time, Burbank Sports Cards, probably the most respected sports card shop in the nation, did their own card show. And it was extremely successful, so successful that they had a massive line out the door at times. People were waiting in line for over an hour to get into the sports card show. They're doing it again Super Bowl weekend, this upcoming February. They promised to make it 4 times bigger. So if there's any show that can maybe start to put pressure on the National over the long run, the Burbank show could potentially do that, just based upon the fact it's in California, it's in the LA area, the mecca of sports cards in the country, and it's backed by probably the most well-known sports card shop in the country. So for those reasons alone, the Burbank show is going to be a force to be reckoned with for a long time to come. Of course, we also saw the Dallas show continue to do very, very well this year. That's a big card show as well as many others. Now, none of these have replaced the National, but they have put some pressure on the National. And I am pleased to say that the National is looking for ways to innovate. I understand this year they're going to, for example, have a better selection, more food options, more beverage options, a better food and beverage selection at the National, maybe some more stuff taking place around it. Certainly in future years, as the group that is managing the National changes after this year, the new management group coming in has a lot of big plans for how they want to make this more of an event, even more of an event and even more of a spectacle than it is today. They want to make it a little more modern. They want to make it a little more slick, and they want to offer more of a community feel around it. I'm excited about where the National is going to go in the years ahead, and I'm excited about these other card shows that are putting some pressure on them to continue to innovate. So there you have it, guys. That was a fun look back at my 2022 predictions. I now have to start working on my 2023 predictions. I got to put a video out about that in the next couple of weeks. So I want to hear from you. What are your predictions for the sports card hobby in 2023? What are things that you think you'll see? What do you think will happen in the market? What do you think could come around new? What could change? What could be different? Let me know. Let me know in the YouTube comments. I'd love to hear your predictions. Maybe I'll even feature a few of them in my own predictions video. Leave those comments and give this video a like and subscribe while you're there. And by the way, if you want to check out Market Movers X, which we used during the video today, it's only $9.99 per month to do some of those awesome things that I showed on the screen today. You can get that by going to sportscardinvestor.com and clicking on Market Movers in the main menu bar, and you will even get your first 7 days free. Thanks for watching. See you later.